Welcome, everybody. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. We are back in the Psychology of Eating podcast. I'm with Jen today. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
Glad we're here. Glad we're doing this. The idea is you and I get to meet for the first time in this context and do a session together. So if you could wave your magic wand, have whatever you wanted with food and body, what would that look like for you?
I could wave my magic wand. The first thing that pops up is lose a little bit of weight. I've gained a bit in the past year and a half. Could be because of a number of things. And then managing food, given my two autoimmune disorders, without being in the restrict binge cycle or feeling burnt out. That's my biggest problem right now is the burnout. I have Hashimoto's. I also have type 1 diabetes, and I have been on a quest for the last nearly 10 years to find what works best for my body. And that changes. And I do a lot of research. I've done vegan. I've kept my fat intake really low because that increases my insulin sensitivity. I have done so much to try to listen to my body, to be aware of everything that's going to work best for me. And I'm tired. I'm tired of having to count the carbs, which I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life. But tracking what's working, what's not, to feel my best. It wears me out.
Oh, I could just about imagine. When were you diagnosed? So you have type 1 diabetes.
I do. And I was an adult. It's been 9.5 years. So a little bit unusual to get type 1 as an adult.
Yeah.
Diagnosed with the Hashimoto's on the very same day. So nearly 10 years.
And how have you gone about working with Hashimoto's?
That tends to be the one I put more on the back burner because every endocrinologist I've encountered just wants to keep me on the levothyroxine and up my dose. I find the thyroid issue to be much harder to understand what will give me the best results in terms of feeling better, in terms of not being cold and dry skin and weight gain. So I don't focus on that nearly as much as my blood sugars. Even though I would love to be one of the people where they say, oh, she's one who got off the thyroid meds. I don't want to take more meds than I need to.
Yeah. So are you on any other medication other than the levothyroxine?
Insulin, but nothing else for the thyroid. No. They had me stop taking the iodine because they said that was actually making it worse.
Mm-hmm. So are you working?
Not outside of the house. I'm working on building my own food eating psychology business. And so working with a few people and doing the work to get more clients, more people to help.
Family, relationship?
Yeah, I'm in a long-term partnership with an amazing man. My kids are grown. Most of my immediate family, siblings and parents live in Wisconsin. So I've got peeps everywhere.
All right. How old are you?
I'm 46.
Okay. So let me just make sure and say in my words what I heard you say. There's a lot that goes into managing being a type 1 diabetic and looking at your amount of carbs, looking at your amount of fats, trying to figure out what works for you, given that also at the same time, it seems like things change. And you're the kind of person that obviously wants to do the right thing, wants to have the best outcome, wants to heal your body. And after 9, 10 years, it gets exhausting having to do all this management and do all this counting.
You got it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. And a lot of it sends me into the diet mentality, the counting, the restricting. And I don't want to do that either.
Yes. So what have you done up to this point, or what do you do up to this point that you find helps you manage kind of the craziness of it all? Are there little things that you have found, here's what sort of helps me get through the tough times when I'm getting sick of this, or I'm just burnt out?
Sure. The things that are helpful are, okay, what is helpful? There's different systems that have worked well for a while. And so when those are working, it's easy to stick to that. The things that I love to do that help put me back in the right mindset are movement. If I'm having one of those days where it's horrible and my food choices don't seem to be working well, I get out in the fresh air and I go for a walk and things like that. The different systems I've tried, a lot of them work for a while. And so when they're working, I don't have trouble. I don't have really big issues. It's like, I'm not sure I'm answering your question. I think I'm in the mindset right now that I'm just really frustrated. And so it's hard to think of the things that do work because I'm having those like just F it moments. Like, oh,
Totally. I hear you. So yeah, and that was a difficult question because I'm basically asking you to answer the question that you're asking me. But I'm just making sure to ask you because sometimes we know a few things. And we just need to be reminded, but that's all good. When you are doing good, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? You're doing good.
Oh, okay. Doing good. It means that I'm regulating my emotions really well. And so I'm not feeling some sort of deprivation or restriction. I'm able to be in the mindset of, hey, I'm making a choice. I'm making a choice to not eat that because it's going to mess up my blood sugars. I feel good when I can see on my continuous glucose monitor, this nice even keel line that my blood sugars are completely in range. When I feel good. I don't worry about my vision being blurry because my blood sugars are high. I am moving with ease. I don't hurt. There's a bunch of things that come when my blood sugars are really low. Like I get ravenous. Like I can eat anything, even if I'm not wanting to eat. And when they're high, I feel sick to my stomach, my head hurts, my heart beats fast. Like to just not have any of those things and just be feeling even keel and having the energy I want and the mindset I want, that's good.
Mhm.
Those things, like that's a perfect day.
Yes. It's interesting because, traditionally what we're told that there's no quote unquote cure for type 1 diabetes. You're going to be insulin dependent for the rest of your life. You're going to be monitoring your blood sugar in various ways for the rest of your life. What do you tell yourself when you hear that?
Like, I want to cuss.
I
I want to swear. I want to be one of the people where I'm the different story. Like whether that's something like a pancreas transplant, I don't know. Like I want to be like, oh, that just sucks. I don't want to be that person. And yet it took me a while to get to this because prior to not working full time, prior to building my own eating psychology business, I'm an educator. I taught for 15 years. everything from kindergarten and second grade to gifted students. And the last thing that I did was PE. I was the gym teacher. Okay. And so I used to like hide my pump. I'd make sure my clothes didn't, my pump didn't show through. So the point being, like, I used to hide the fact that I was a type 1. I didn't want anyone to judge me for it or look at what I was eating and make some assumptions about she shouldn't have that. And I finally came to the point where I am a great role model. I am able to, okay, I'm going to have type 1 for the rest of my life, but I can be the person who doesn't let that be a defining or a limitation, right? Like it does define me. It impacts my day, every decision. And that's part of the burnout. Diabetics make hundreds of more decisions each day than people without it. So when I think I have to live with it for the rest of my life, it's both sides of the coin. It's like, oh my God, that's like I've been doing this 10 years and I'm burnt out and I've got another 40, 50 to go. Like, oh, and then wait a minute. I can be this example. I can be a role model. I can make this work. I can live my best life in spite of it. So it depends where my headspace is in the moment.
Yes. Okay. I love this because you're setting up for us, this conversation. You're basically identifying two very clear, prevalent, and understandable voices. I think one's a little devil and one's a little angel kind of thing.
Right.
Those are the two voices that are in conversation. And honestly, to me, both of them are perfectly understandable. There's the voice in you that says, screw this. This sucks. Who wants it? I don't want to do this. I got to do this for 40, 50 more years. Like no way. I want out of this. Like, somebody fix this. Give me a pancreas transplant. Like, let's make this go away. And basically, I am in protest of this situation because what should I do? Like, lay down and accept it?
Right.
There's no fight in that. And then the other voice is, okay, here's what it is. Here's where it's at. And I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to let this stop me. And that's more of the adult in you. That's more of the queen in you. That's more of the wise woman in you who's talking. And on any given day, week, or month, one of those voices is going to be more prevalent. And essentially, I'm going to agree with you that there is no possible way that you can continue being on the roller coaster called I'm burnout. And okay, now I'm recovering and I'm sort of getting a little more energy to deal with all this. And then I get back on the horse and then I get burned out again. Yes. So that, is not fun.
It's not fun at all. And I feel the same way I feel about when we talk to people about food isn't good or bad. You're not a good or bad person, right? If you eat X, Y, or Z, I have to do the same, talk to myself about my numbers. Like when I have an appointment with the endocrinologist and they review my A1C and my blood sugars over the last 3 months and all my thyroid, I feel like I'm a good or bad person, depending on how well I've done. And so there's that added pressure I put on myself and this judgment of it's like passing a test and I failed.
Yes. So I think here's where the reframe starts to come. And, first and foremost, I'm always holding that our relationship with food and body, whatever it is a great teacher. If I can live there and remember that, then I can be in relationship as best I can with whatever's coming up with my body, with my health, with my relationship with food. If I'm looking at it as a great teacher, what is it asking of me? How is it asking me to grow as a person? So if I asked you, how does diabetes ask you to grow as a person, how is it part of your personal and spiritual journey? What comes up?
Gosh, the first thing that comes up is doing it, managing it, um, better than I've seen family members do it. So 2 brothers, mom, her brother, all have type 1. And I have judgments about how some of them manage their struggle with this. And so like, I can do it better. And yet I don't always, and so like, what's that about? Like some sense of being superior or whatever, which is just dumb. It's just dumb. But like for me, and how you do food is how you do life, right? And so there's this piece of, wow, why do I think I need to be the best at it? Why do I think that my judgment has a place in any of this? And so I think that that's something I definitely can work on, but it makes me feel restricted and deprived, and I don't do well with that. And so there's a piece where I know I need to shift from that. And it's not just with food, obviously. There's times where I feel like I'm missing out on something, and I don't like that feeling. And also, I think it's there to teach me that I want to walk the talk, that I want to do the things that honor my body, that honor my health, so that my kids never have to take care of me, so that my quality of life is as awesome as possible for as long as I have. And I don't know, like I'm so in love with people's bodies in whatever state they're in, whatever shape they're in. Like it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's this fantastic machine. And yet sometimes I think I'm not doing a good job taking care of my own. And I know that's not true, but it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot of rambling, but
No, it wasn't a lot of rambling. It was such a great answer to my question. You first, when I asked you, what is your relationship with food and body? What does it feel like it's teaching you? How is it a great teacher? At first you started talking about your family. Now you could be in perfect health. And I know plenty of people who have great health and they have issues with their family and they have judgment towards their family members, or their family members have judgment towards them. So that's nothing new. And
right.
so family is always teaching us. Family is often asking us to practice compassion and acceptance, purely, period. Your friends are your chosen family. Your friends are people you choose to be in relationship with. Your family are people that looks like it got chosen for you. These are the people I'm with, and maybe they don't have the same viewpoints or the same habits or the same skills or the same awareness that I do. And they're part of humanity. And it's not just about feeling compassionate towards them and just unconditionally accepting, because you better than anyone know how difficult this nonsense is. You know how difficult it is to deal with this.
Yes.
And you know how crazy it could make you. So in their world, it makes them crazy. It makes them
Absolutely.
upset.
Yes.
And ultimately, I think it's also you learning compassion for you, that you have not done a single thing wrong. Like, not guilty. I think there's this part of you that is the judge and the sentencer, like guilty.
Mm-hmm.
You did something because you had this condition, or you were given this condition. Somehow it's punishing you. It's depriving you. And on the one hand, you're going to resist restriction, jail, handcuffs, punishment. But on the other hand, a part of us is going to feel guilty. Like, I did something.
Yeah.
And I think part of your practice on a daily basis is absolving yourself of any guilt. You have a condition that certainly has some type of genetic component to it.
Yes.
And you didn't commit any crime to get where you are. People get ill. People get diseased. People get cancer. I know people who have had the healthiest diet and the healthiest lifestyle, and they get cancer.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen?
It's true.
And there's a place where we have to absolve ourselves of any sin and any guilt. And as we do that, it's a little bit easier to start embracing your journey. One of my very close friends has been an insulin-dependent diabetic since his teens. And he says to me, he says, you know, a lot of people do drugs so they can escape. He said, I know a lot of people that's why they drink alcohol. That's why they smoke pot.
Right.
That's why they do psychedelics, are trying to escape. He says, I do insulin, my number one drug. He said, that's the only drug I do. He said, I do insulin so I can be here.
Right. Right.
Not so
I
can
call
escape.
I call my insulin pump my life support.
Yes.
Because that's what it is.
So, yeah, you know, normally you and I don't have to sit around worrying about, is my heart going to beat? Do I have to do something to make my heart beat? Do I have to do something to make sure my brain waves don't flatten and I die? We don't have to worry about that. Our basic life support systems just do themselves. We
Right.
breathe naturally. If you and I had to remind ourselves to breathe, that would be a nightmare. So you're in the interesting journey where you get to participate in your life support.
Mhm.
And it's just an
Mhm.
interesting journey. I'm literally helping my life support systems. A lot of people don't have to do that.
Right.
And
That's
some of us
true.
do. And that exists not because you've done something wrong, but because here's what's happened. Here's how life has unfolded for you. Is it unfair? Maybe. Might be unfair. And here's what it is. How do you embrace that? A big piece of the burnout is not the constant tracking of everything, even though that's difficult, or it can be difficult. I think the biggest part of the burnout is your resistance to, this is my journey.
To an extent, and I love that you said the word participate in it, because I've never thought about it as, you know, I'm participating in my own life support. It is a burden sometimes. And so where was I going with that? The idea being, the frustration is added to when there's so many things that impact me and I can't tease out what they are, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, I don't necessarily need to know all the time, but, you know, if I'm not feeling well, my blood sugars go up. If I'm stressed, my blood sugars go up. I'm also thinking that part of my weight gain is because, or could be because I'm perimenopausal. Cycles, the hormones make my blood sugars go up. So there's so many times when it's not like the thing feels so hard in itself. It's that when the result isn't what I expect, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
So there's that piece too, where there's just all these variables that I don't have knowledge of or control over.
100% agree. So you have your unique version of, we don't know what's going to happen to our body at any time.
Yeah.
You have your unique version of it.
Yes, I do.
Everybody has their own unique version, depending on your age, depending on your level of health, depending on what ailments or disease conditions you're dealing with. We don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when we're going to start to feel more ill. We don't know when we're going to start to lose energy. We don't know when our brain's not going to function. We just don't know. So that's part of being in a body. Even if you didn't have this condition, you'd be dealing with perimenopause, menopause, you'd be dealing with aging, you'd be dealing with knees and this and that, and whatever you deal with.
Right.
So all I'm saying is this is your very interesting and fascinating and unique journey. And it's a bit of a wild ride.
Yes.
You're a cowgirl and you got to be on the horse called your life and your ride with your body. And sometimes that horse is giving you a nice ride.
Right.
And sometimes you do everything you're supposed to do and it's throwing you off.
Yeah, that's for certain.
And there's a place where if you can make that a little more okay, that this is what it looks like right now. This is what it's kind of looked like for the last 9 or 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's a place where you can drop into your journey just a bit more and just wrap your arms around it just a bit more and say, everything that I'm going through is for my growth and betterment as a human being. So yeah, it's a great place to learn how to walk the talk. It's a great place to learn how to feel compassionate towards others who have the same conditions or different conditions. It's a great place for you to learn how to forgive yourself, i.e., you're not a bad girl. It's a great place also to learn that this is not restricting you. It's giving you boundaries. Very different.
Oh, that's a good reframe. Yes.
You're a mother and you've been a mother and you raised your kids from young, and you know that there's times when you got to give them boundaries.
Absolutely.
Now your kid can look at you and say, Mommy, you're restricting me. I want to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. Like, no, I'm not restricting you.
It's not the way it works.
Exactly. I'm giving you boundaries so you stay safe. I'm giving you boundaries so your life is going to work better.
Yeah.
And every symptom is just creating a boundary for you. And boundaries that's how you have a river. A river has boundaries. It has riverbanks, and that's what allows it to flow. So boundaries help create who we are as humans.
Right. I try to think of it as discipline. I'm trying to say discipline with bliss. You know, the idea that discipline can create freedom and that it doesn't have to be something that's not joyful, you know? But I like that boundaries instead of restriction. That flows really, or marries really nice with that. And I've never thought about it with those particular words.
Because the moment you feel restricted, you're going to likely go into the little girl inside you.
Absolutely.
She's going to take over and she's going to scream. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I'm done. Like, I want to go home. No more of this. And I don't want to play. And that's the child in us who understandably is complaining. I think somebody get me out of this. And your job, and you're going to go there. And in the moments that you go there, you know what it's like to be a good mother. And when your child is going to the place where they're frustrated, where they're anxious, where they just want to give up and scream and not play and not show up, what do? You love them. You talk to them, you get present with them, you stay with them, you listen to them. So there's moments when I think it'll be great for you to just listen to that voice inside you that wants to complain and give her a voice. Like, yeah, I totally get why this sucks for you.
Yeah.
And have compassion towards that voice as you be a better mother for yourself, as you be a better adult for yourself, as you be a better caretaker for yourself.
Yeah, there's days that I can definitely think of that I need that. I need to do that, and to be thinking about it from the sense of caring for myself instead of being upset with myself or feeling frustrated.
And letting go for a while, just for a while, just have a handful of months where you let go of fixing this condition and let go of the dream of this is all going to go away someday, and say, you know, what if it's like this let's pretend this is what it's going to be like for the rest of my life.
Which it is.
Yes. As far as we can tell, as far as we know.
Right.
So let's just pretend that this is going to be the journey. How do I love myself into this journey? Loving yourself doesn't mean you necessarily love the whole journey.
Right.
Loving yourself means you don't abandon yourself when it gets difficult. Loving yourself means you speak kindly to yourself no matter what's going on. So when the numbers don't look good to you, no, you're not a bad person. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't deserve judgment.
And I know that intellectually.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely. Like I know that intellectually. It is a hard thing to hold on to when, you know, I've look at the CGM and the numbers are climbing, and it's like, but I do know that intellectually. And there has been so much growth and grace that I've allowed myself in the past couple years, in which it is like, this is okay. I can enjoy this or not enjoy this, and I can take what comes with it and I will deal with it. But sometimes I'm just like, you know, for a couple of years, I did a protocol called Mastering Diabetes, which is plant-based, low fat, that worked for a while, you know, and then I switched back to eating meat and I felt better. And, you know, and this cycle of like, just, okay, when something stops working, I know it's not that I've done something wrong, but I don't always know, well, like, what now? And then it does naturally fall into the same sort of thinking as diet thinking, the same idea that, oh, if I need more insulin's a fat storing hormone. I don't want to store fat. And, you know, or the idea that, you know, I'm finding that one right way to eat, which, you know, doesn't exist. And so it's just constant. Yes, I can give myself grace. Yes, I don't have to be so hard on myself. I'm not doing something wrong, but I still just, I can understand why so many diabetics, like why the proportion of diabetics with eating disorders is higher than the general population. Like, I can get it. There's days where I'm just like, I could just do that and just say F it all. And, you know, but then I can't. I think it, but I would never do it. Like, I stop myself, but I definitely think it.
Yes. And it's understandable.
Yeah.
And it's completely natural. And here is your body being a great teacher for you. And you know, sometimes the learning isn't fun. Sometimes the learn lessons in life, they just ain't fun. And we're paying a lot of tuition to learn lessons that we prefer we didn't learn. And I think you're just ongoingly, and as you've acknowledged, you've already come so far with how you be with yourself. And I think that's your journey, is you keep stepping into more and more freedom, no matter what your body's doing. You step into more and more compassion, no matter what your body's doing. And you listen and manage all those voices inside you. And go ahead.
Okay, so what is your, like, in addition to what you've already said, what's the reframe with that? Because like when we're talking to clients about food issues that increase their weight, I think of weight as not a desirable thing, but when I look at the things that happen for me, I could lose my toes, I could lose my eyesight. This isn't just about putting on 10 pounds, right? That
Yes.
there's, you know, I want to have grace with myself, but there's potential nerve damage. There's, you know, the incidence of diabetics dying of heart disease is so much higher, right? Like to me, like there's this different level of concern compared to no matter what my body's doing. Well, I don't want to do something that's gonna cause me to go blind. Yeah. And so the difference between 10 pounds and something really bad, right? Like, so maybe some of what you've said already is the reframe for that, but I have a hard time being more relaxed with that sort of idea.
Let me just make sure I'm understanding what you're asking. Is there a concern for you, like, wow, I'm going to gain X amount of weight, which would then put me at risk for something worse?
No, not so much. It's the idea that we can give our bodies grace. We can allow them to be what they're going to be. For some people, their, you know, biggest concern is their weight. We see a lot of those people where that's their concern, right? And so I know that you recommend people take the diet from dieting, right? Cut it off. Be gentle with your body, not make that what focus is for a certain amount of time as your journey progresses. And for me, I feel like, well, if I just allow my body to do what my body's going to do and to have grace with it, I think the complications that could come up for me are far more significant.
Absolutely. So you're on your own unique journey this is your journey. This is your unique journey, and is different from anybody else's journey. So yeah, so you have more refined boundaries than the average person who just wants to lose 10 pounds.
Right.
You have way more refined boundaries because the potential risks are greater for you if you're not monitoring what's going on in your body.
And so that's the line I have trouble like making sense of, the idea of there's the risks, but I don't want to be, you know, completely head tripping all the time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Right.
Yes.
And so what you've said does apply to that. I'm realizing that I just have to revisit those words you just said a little while ago. Yeah, it's a tough one.
To me, yes, you have clear boundaries, and yes, your body is potentially at risk on any day. That's not fun. That could be crazy making. And really the only remedy I know for that is not so much de-stressing yourself, because yeah, you're in stress and anxiety when I'm thinking like, oh my God, this could happen, that could happen. I got these tight boundaries. I got to eat this. I can't eat that. I got to make sure. So the remedy ultimately is more vitamin T, which is trust. Trust by itself is relaxing. You know, you've been aware of this condition for 10 years now, and here you are. All things considered, you're a healthy human being. All things considered, life isn't so bad.
Great.
And all things considered, this hasn't killed you. And in fact, I'm going to guess it's made you a stronger person.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So far,
Yeah.
according to the evidence that you've gathered, you have managed this condition really well. And not only are you managing it from a health perspective, but you've also become a better version of you.
I would agree with that. Yes.
So there's no reason why that can't continue. And part of it is just trusting in life, just having faith that, okay, you know, so far this hasn't killed me. So far, I've been able to help manage my body, help keep myself alive, help keep myself from worst case scenarios. And I'm a better human being. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, this isn't fun
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Right.
And this is my journey. So all I'm saying is, if we're asking the question, how is type 1 diabetes teaching you? How is the restrictive diet or the boundary producing diet that you need to be on? How's it a great teacher for you? It's all asking you to trust. Because, you know, any one of us can die on any given day of who knows what. And that
That
happens.
is true. Yes.
You can be 35 and get a stroke and pass away, and leave behind young children. I know of a person. So we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know when. And it's you bringing in, I think, just the spiritual part of you, that here's my life. And I'm eventually, no matter what I do, no matter what I eat or don't eat, I will die. Whether you're vegan,
Yes.
you're paleo, whether
Right.
you're intermittent, we will definitely end up underground, or cremated. So that's the end result of any fantastic nutritional system, as far as we can tell. So that's where we're going. So in between that time, in between the time that you and I have left, why not do our best to trust in the journey? Because sometimes that's all we have. Otherwise, my other option is to freak out every day.
Right.
My other option is to think the sword's going to just come down on me today.
Yes. And I appreciate that reminder, because the same way, like, I can counsel people, don't get on the scale first thing in the morning, because you're allowing that to set your mood or the tone, right? Instead of checking in with, well, how do you feel, right? How does your body feel? Without that, I do the same thing by looking at my blood sugar numbers, right? So it's not the number on a scale, but it's the number on my CGM. And like, that does the same thing to me in that mental space of, or, hey, cool, right? And so that's an excellent reminder that, yeah, we're born, we eat, we die, and to trust it. All those in between pieces.
Yes, and learn, you know, as best we can, like, yeah, the number for you is different from a number on the scale.
Right.
The number for you really does signify potential harm.
But I don't need to let it create or set up my mental space. You know, what does it say? Is it a good number or not? Right. And so that's a good reminder for me.
Exactly, because in the scheme of things, you have learned how to manage your experience such that no matter what the number has been, here you are. You got all your toes, you got your eyesight, and you have all your faculties, and things aren't so bad. So you've been doing something right. You've been doing something that works.
That is true. Yeah. And I don't give myself enough credit for that. Sometimes I believe.
Yeah. And now's a good time to start to turn that around, is to start to bring in the positives. So one way to get out of the negatives of the situation is not to get rid of the negatives, because the negatives are going to be there. But let's focus more on some of the positives. How you've grown, how you've changed, how you've learned to manage this, how you've been successful at managing your experience, how it's making you a better practitioner, how it's making you a better, more compassionate, more understanding family member.
Absolutely. It definitely is one of those things that puts more of life into perspective. The bigger pieces, the pieces that I value, the things that really are priorities. It is a teacher.
It really is, Jen.
Yeah.
I think you've done a great job. I think this is a good turning point for you to just say to yourself, like, hey, this is something. Yes, I'm going to be dealing with it, but I don't have to fight with it in the same way. There will be moments of fighting, but this is you participating in your life support.
Participating. Yes.
You're a participant in your life support. You're a
Yes.
participant in keeping your body working in a good way. You're feeding yourself and nourishing yourself. And when you take insulin, that's like cooking a great meal. You're giving your body what it wants.
Right.
And when you eat food, you're doing your best to eat the food that's going to support your body. And sometimes your body's going to go, yes, that worked. And sometimes your body's going to go, hey, no, that didn't work. You haven't done anything wrong. It's the wild ride of your body.
And in so many ways, despite, 2 autoimmune disorders, I adore my body, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that I have the technology I have as well to manage this. When my brothers were little, it was a different situation, how they had to check their blood sugars and take their injections. And there's nothing that makes me think like I don't have it as good as it can be given the circumstances. So I definitely hold on to those things. Oh, sorry. And have to keep that in mind, even when the days are a little less clear, and when my mood is not quite as on point.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Sorry about that phone.
You're good. You're totally good.
Okay.
Well, I think this is a great place for us to say, let's wrap up. And great work, Jen. I really respect you and respect your journey and how, just how you've conducted yourself. And to me, as I'm listening to you speak in our time together, I've just heard, an amazing woman just working with something really difficult, like truly difficult, and doing your best to make it work in a good way for you and for the people around you, and wanting to use this experience to help other people.
Well, I appreciate that, and I respect your opinion immensely. I know how much experience you've had through the years and with so many different types of clients. And so your words do mean a lot to me. And I appreciate the reframes in terms of how I can continue to thrive in spite of it all. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so glad we spoke.
Likewise.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Hey friends, we're so happy that you've joined us for another episode of The Psychology of Eating with Marc David. Are you loving these episodes? Then simply subscribe and you'll never miss an episode again. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a comment below so we can hear more about your own journey with food and body. And if you're curious about what we offer at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, including our internationally acclaimed coach certification training that's rooted in dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition, please head on over to our website, psychologyofeating.com. Until next time, take care. And remember, having the body you want starts with loving the body you have.